Hello everybody and welcome to today's video looking at the build of this, the Gloster Meteor FR.9 by Airfix, which was the Airfix Club kit for 2023. This kit is something of a forgotten club kit for me because it has spent the entire time since its arrival, when it was released in January 23, in my stash, just forgotten about whilst other club kits both before and after get built. So I thought it was time to finally undo that injustice, if you like, and finally crack on with it. But the reason why it spent so long sitting around not being built is that it arrived just after, or it was announced, sorry, just after I'd actually built one of my first ever kits for the channel, which was the original release of this tooling from 2022. If you are interested in a bit of Captain Nostalgia, then you could go and check that video out, although be warned, it is definitely not as good as the videos I make today. There is already a dedicated unboxing that I have released for this kit, so if you want to be brought up to speed with what you get inside the box, then by all means check that out first, and I will pop an affiliate link in the description below for the normal release of the Meteor, should you wish to buy that and support the channel. With that all out the way, let's go and take a look at what happened when I built this kit. The tooling date is 2022, the same as the original release of the FR.8, but it features an extra sprue for those FR.9 components. There are 154 parts included, although you will not be using all of them. It comes with 2 decal schemes, and for the RRP I've put the price of the normal release kit, which is $24.99. This of course is no longer available unless you find it second hand. Construction, of course, begins with the cockpit, which is formed of these 2 sidewall details. There's no top or bottom. They get glued together at one end only. It's kind of like a 2-pronged fork, if you like, which then in turn gets glued onto a base piece which has a hole in it. The pilot's ejection seat comes in 2 halves. I say ejection seat, I prefer to think of it as a whoops, shit has hit the fan, let's get out of here seat. And then the cushion and headrest are glued into this piece separately, which serves to, one, cover up the seam from both of the main seat halves, but it also adds a nice bit of definition to it. There's a decent gap between the 2 sides of the cushion, for example. It's quite a nice way of doing it, I think. We also have a mounting rail which goes on the back of it, and this will slide, although I'm not going to glue it in yet, but it will slide into the back of that bucket piece there, just behind the separate rudder pedals which have been moulded into that floor piece we mentioned earlier. Vallejo's black primer is being loaded into the airbrush and will be used for all internal components that I have so far assembled, as well as certain things that are still on the sprue, such as undercarriage areas and things like that. I find it easier sometimes to paint things on the sprue and sometimes to paint them when they're assembled. I just mix and match. The seat covers are described as a bluey colour, so I've gone for this Hataka Photo Reconnaissance blue, which, I mean, I don't know if it's right, it's just a bluey colour, and when you look through the canopy you can see that it's a bluey colour. That's all that matters. If you know the exact tone of the fabric that they used in these ejection seats, well done. A decal is provided for both the instrument panel, which I'm putting on whilst it is still on the sprue, and you've got these little warning panels on both sides of the seat, sort of behind the headrest as well, so just be careful to make sure you put them the right way round because they are not symmetrical, and they go on there. Dark sea grey, also from Hataka, is then being dry brushed over pretty much everything that I have done. I'm using dark grey because I think it adds a nice textured effect for the fabric, but it also serves to just slightly lighten up the black of everything else. I did go a little bit heavy on it in some places, didn't quite get rid of as much paint as I perhaps should have done, although the reason why I was doing the chair is because the bit which I overdid it on the dry brushing is hidden behind these sidewall details anyway, so it makes no difference. That's why I often try dry brushing on certain pieces. I do the bits which are going to be hidden, so it doesn't matter if I overdo it. The entire assembly can now be glued together. I have already put the control stick in, and that actually makes it a lot harder to get the seat in. It'd be much, much easier if I did the seat first. I painted everything, put the seat in, then the control column, and then the instrument panel. But I didn't, and I remembered that that was a problem from the first time I built this kit, and still didn't learn, but never mind. The reflector gun sight is glued onto the back of the instrument panel, and the various bits that need to be coloured will be painted separately. There's then this really awkward, almost springy bit which is fixed on only by these two tiny tabs, and it has the hole for the wheel when the nose gear is retracted. My advice is to make sure that as soon as you put this bit in, you fit it against the side of the fuselage, just to make sure that it is definitely at the right angle, because if you get it slightly wrong, you're going to have problems further on down the line, especially when it comes to actually gluing the fuselage together. There are a couple of holes that need opening up on the fuselage of this one, so with just a file, I'm just providing a rough cut on those indentations. It only needs to be a rough cut at this stage. I can open it up once the fuselage halves are together if necessary, but just pay attention to the instructions because they're not always in the middle. The one at the front is in the middle, and the one partway down the fuselage is at an angle. It's offset to one side. Airfix have put some dimples in the inside of the wing for the various underwing stores. I'm choosing to put the drop tank, so that goes in the middle, and we will have 3 holes for that. And the rockets, so I'll need 8 holes per wing for those. Before we then come to the engine representation, I think is the best way of putting it. So we have the back end of the engines on one piece, which provides a wing spar, and then the front we have these little I suppose they're intake guides, whatever they are, they control the airflow into the engine. They go on as well, and then we have separate wheel bay parts, so different sidewalls to connect the dots, if you like. It looks good when it's done, but it is a little bit fiddly, and the entire thing I would recommend being done when it's still wet, so it's still a bit malleable. You know, don't glue one bit in and let it dry for ages. Glue the whole lot in, and then you can still manipulate it. And then we have the representation of the front of the engine, which is separate for each wing. We now have the fiddly bit. It's the nose gear. This was a lot easier in the FR.8, not the FR, the F8 version, which doesn't have a camera in the front. But essentially you've got a bulkhead and then supporting arms and then a very flimsy nose gear or nose leg that goes on. This goes inside the nose, which has cameras, which is why it's a lot easier in the F8, so you don't have to worry about it so much. But it's a bit awkward because there is no way of adding the nose gear after these parts have been assembled, so for the rest of the build you will be just there with a nose gear dangling around. The rudder is listed as movable, so it's saying don't glue it in. I find this a bit odd because there are no other control surfaces which it has said are movable, and also whilst just clamping it together with my fingers and trying to turn, you notice it's a bit stiff anyway. It mostly turns to starboard, it doesn't really turn to port, so I wonder why they've bothered. And since I don't need this functionality, what I'm now doing is gluing the entire fuselage together, and then just before it's set, just going to slide that rudder piece in and it will be fixed. It won't be able to turn, and I don't care, but it will mean it's nice and secure. Then I'm going to work on the tail, which really nicely engineered, has P and S on the relevant parts, but they will be hidden inside the tail. So here you glue the top and the bottom of S, and it goes in on the S hand side, and then you do the same thing with the one that says P. Of course, if you don't know that P means port and S means starboard, and that is standard aircraft naming convention, this is pointless to you, but I at least appreciate it. The elevators can then go on, but again, no mention of moving parts for them. Moving on to the weight in the nose, because of course this has nose gear and therefore we're going to need to put some weight in. You may wonder why I've glued the fuselage halves together before putting weight. Well, this is why. I'm getting out the liquid gravity. I've put a little bit of tape over the front of the nose to prevent things from falling out, and just pouring the liquid gravity in, followed up with some super glue. Whilst that is then put to one side to thoroughly dry, I'm going to work on the rest of the wings. We have the exhaust nozzles which extend from those previous bits out there, and we also have a light that needs to be glued in from the inside on the underside of the port wing, which I managed to lose. I cut it off the sprue and it had gone, and I tried to find it, and then obviously being clear it was hard to see, so I didn't. So I just glued it on the top of the wing and thought I will deal with that with a dab of Clearfix or something similar later on. The ailerons also come in 2 parts, so they are glued together and then glued into this assembly. There is also a weird sort of joining piece for the back half of the fuselage as it joins the trailing edges of the wings. That needs to be glued on at this point as well. And we can test the fit of the fuselage assembly to the wing assembly, and by gluing the tail on already, I can test the weight and work out whether it is enough or not. Because the wings were not glued in at this point, the option is still there to get access to add more weight if necessary. Moving on to my least favourite part of this entire build is the undercarriage. It is such a weird, cack-handed way of doing it, and they always feel too tight. There's not enough tolerance in it, but there's not enough room to really get in there with the file or anything. It's just stressful, but hey, I did it. The reward for this is then the absolute pain in the backside of trying to get it to fit inside the slots properly. Both of them put up a fight, and it was just unpleasant. Funnily enough, this was the thing that I remembered the most from building it first time, and I still hate it. But once it's more or less in, you then got these cross braces just to try and support it and get it in line. I don't think it's ideal though. We have a different type of engine intake depending on which scheme you do. One is shorter and fatter and the other is taller and slimmer, so make sure that you get the correct one for your intended scheme. And the fuselage is now glued onto the wings, but there is going to be a little bit of room left in the drop tank if necessary, if it doesn't sit properly. Both windscreen and canopy have some solid plastic in them, so they were painted black on the sprue right at the beginning. They're then very, very carefully put inside, and the canopy can then be glued on. It does have an option for it sliding open or closed, but I'm going to keep it closed. And then the final bits of construction at this stage are just the odds and ends that go underneath in both those holes that we've drilled, and also the ejection ports for the guns at the nose, which again seem to suffer from slight tolerance issues as they're incredibly tight and fiddly to get in, but with enough glue and enough manipulating they stand in. And then we can get on with the painting. Attacker Metallic Silver is going to be the majority of this, but I'm actually going to add a few drops of medium sea grey from Vallejo into the mix, all mix it up, shove it in the airbrush and spray it. Now why would I add grey to it? Well, I don't want it to be particularly shiny. I want it to look like silver paint, which is slightly flat, because that's exactly what these things were painted. They were not bare metal, they were not polished to within an inch of their life. The majority of silver aircraft were actually painted silver, because or at least protected with varnish, because leaving a bare metal plane open to the elements is not a good idea. And outside of a very resource heavy war, you're probably just going to paint it to protect it and make sure it lasts longer. Now it's at this stage I can put the nose on. This has been painted separately just for ease of convenience, and I'm also gluing the fins onto all of the rockets. I say all of the rockets, you get twice as many as you need, so I'm using the correct ones for this version. And getting out this Hataka Insignia Red to paint the bands around the cowling on both engines. I've not masked this. The contours of the part make it fairly easy, as long as you've got a steady hand to just hand paint the red stripe on, because honestly masking something like this it isn't worth my time, in my opinion. And then we can get out the gloss varnish, make sure everything is nice and smooth and shiny, and move on to the decals. The Airfix Meteor is one of those kits that will test your endurance with stencils. There are stencils everywhere for everything, and an entire A4 sheet of paper just to tell you where they all go. I decided I would at least intended to put them all on. I didn't. I ran out of patience when I got to the underside. I thought, you know what, it's going to sit on its wheels. I don't care. Just get me away from these stupid bleeding stencils. There's hundreds of them, which for a small plane is a bit much. Obviously, you don't have to do this. You're not going to notice most of them, but I at least tried. The most visible decals are, of course, the national insignia and registration and things, and these went on without any problem whatsoever. Notice, of course, how the aircraft is now sitting firmly on its nose, so I definitely did put enough weight in there. With the decals on, everything was given a coat of matte varnish, and we can put on those rockets. These were painted separately at the same time as the aircraft, but they were left on the sprue for convenience. These are just already attached to the little rail type mounting points, so they're just glued straight on, 4 underneath each wing. And then the rest of the nose gear, which is just the wheel and this tiny little very flimsy stick that is apparently supposed to hold up the entire plane. Anyway, that all gets glued on. And we have the pitot tube on the port wing. However, because it is incredibly fine, you note it's a little stub. Most of it just stayed on the sprue. Never mind, minor casualty. This can be replaced with a bit of wire or something afterwards. You won't see that in this video, but it is an easy thing to do. I just wanted to leave it as it was to be a more honest representation. And then the final parts can be glued on, which are the undercarriage doors on both the main bays and the nose. And with that, I declare this Ecuadorian Meteor as complete. My thoughts on the kit first then. This was a very similar experience to the main release of the Meteor, which is what you'd expect because the vast majority of this tooling is just the same. It's just this one has a sprue for the different nose and the rockets. This is not a kit for a beginner, mostly due to those fiddly bits and the slight tolerance issues. The undercarriage is just fiddly. It just doesn't quite work. You have to sand it down or really try and squeeze it in, and then you risk breaking it, and even then I still have a slight seam down it. It isn't great. Thankfully, of course, being the undercarriage, it's out of sight. Just doesn't fall together like other new Airfix releases do. The detail is definitely there. I think it is a very good representation of the Meteor. It certainly matches the photos I've taken of Meteors over the years. I particularly like the addition of rockets on this release, and I like the fact that they've given you a relatively unusual scheme in the form of this one from Ecuador. I know this won't be everyone's cup of tea, but it's nice that they've given you this as a second option rather than just sticking to the more traditional RAF photo reconnaissance or fighter reconnaissance Meteor. Although I probably would have preferred some of the purple ones that you see in Ecuadorian service, but hey, I'm just happy to have something more unusual on my shelves. As for this specific Meteor then, and the job that I've done on it, firstly, the colour. I addressed it briefly, but I'm going to address it in full now. I believe that this is a much better representation of RAF high-speed silver than it would be had I not added the grey. However, there were a couple of times that I thought maybe I'd added a little bit too much grey. The logic behind my process was the grey will just take the shine away, but it won't change the colour too much, and I think that is true. I think that has happened. I didn't prime it, which is unusual for me. Usually I would, but if you do prime something like this, priming it on grey and then just leaving the silver might work as well. It is important to me that this looks flat. It doesn't look shiny, it doesn't look particularly metallic, because from my experience from the many aircraft that I've seen in museums that are in RAF high-speed silver, this is what they look like. They don't look shiny, they don't look bright and in your face, they just look very subdued because they are ultimately just paint. As with the other Meteor that I did in the past, I found that the nose was a bit of an issue, mostly just because of the way that I choose to build kits. I prefer to not have undercarriage legs when I'm painting them, especially not one as small and spindly as the nose wheel on this. It's too easy to break. I'm likely to catch it or drop it or do something, and once it's broken, you just lose so much strength, or you have to replace it with wire or something like that. It's a lot of effort. For me, I would rather not include it until later on. The downside is that because of the way I added the weight, I ended up having to remove a little bit of plastic, and I clearly didn't do it properly because it is a tiny bit wonky on one side. Not the end of the world, and entirely caused by myself, so I'm not going to say that the kit's bad because of it, but you know, it's worth mentioning nonetheless. As mentioned, I did leave the belly tank off so that I could put a little bit of weight in the front of that, because the front of the belly tank is ahead of the main undercarriage, therefore it will push the centre of gravity forwards. I did not need that. This has more than enough weight in it, and in fact if you push it down on its tail it will right itself. So definitely fine for weight, but always nice to have a backup plan if necessary. Of course, building it the way that I did with the wings detached gave me that extra opportunity to line it all up and make sure it fit. With that then, I'm going to wrap this one up, so thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to give the video a like if you liked it, and if you don't subscribe but you've watched it to the end, then please consider subscribing. I'm also expecting people to have a go at me for basically painting this grey when you would probably expect it to be silver, so if you want to have a go at me, then that's what the comment section is for. I won't apologise for it, but I understand if you want to vent and call me an idiot, that's all good too. You can also become a Channel member, like the people appearing on screen. I provide my members with weekly updates, at least where possible, and because I work quite far ahead in my videos, they will have known about this Meteor and the colour I chose to paint it in before the unboxing even went live, because sometimes that's just the way I work. If you're interested in spoilers or you just want to support the channel in another way, then by all means you'll be welcome. You don't have to, just watching the videos is more than enough for me. There is also the affiliate link, which I'm hoping I remember to put in the video because I've mentioned it twice, and I very rarely mention that I have an affiliate link with Airfix products, but it is there in the description, so if you're planning on buying anything from Airfix, then you could at least help me out for no extra cost to yourself if you want. Again, I don't normally mention it, but it is there. Right, I've started rambling, I need to go, I've got other plans to work on. Thank you very much, hopefully see you in the future. Goodbye.